During the COVID pandemic, states were required to keep all Medicaid enrollees covered. Since that requirement ended in the spring of 2023, Florida has been redetermining the eligibility of everyone on Medicaid, a process also called the Medicaid Unwind. Between May and November, almost 1 million Floridians have been terminated from Medicaid, and this has been catastrophic for many. Florida's redetermination process has been plagued with problems, including confusing notices terminating coverage, and which often fail to provide a reason explaining why the person was found ineligible. Another problem is Florida's failure to follow its own prioritization plan for protecting the most vulnerable children. These problems and others are best explained by people who are sharing their lived experiences, including those parents whose extremely sick children unexpectedly lost coverage at the very beginning of the unwind. This was not supposed to happen. The state's redetermination plan promised that the most medically at-risk children would go last. Because of this, some profoundly sick kids lost their Medicaid lifeline without adequate notice or time to prepare. Penelope's mom described what it was like when her 5-year-old child, who suffers from a rare condition and needs daily medications and care, suddenly lost her Medicaid without any notice. Another problem is that parents who dutifully completed their redeterminations before the end of their coverage period were still terminated along with their eligible children. Parents like Tanya described how reinstatement was then agonizingly slow and how she and her children went without needed care. Another problem is that new moms who are entitled to 12 months of postpartum coverage have suddenly found themselves terminated shortly after their babies were born. Lindsay's baby was only 2 months old when she lost Medicaid. She had to go to the DCF office 3 times and educate staff herself about the fact that the Florida legislature had extended postpartum coverage from 2 months to 12 months in 2021. And pregnant women, also clearly eligible for coverage, got notices terminating their Medicaid. Lily, a working mom with 2 kids, was 7 months pregnant when her Medicaid was suddenly ended. The reason given for the termination was incorrect, and she had to spend hours trying to get the error fixed. Even individuals with severe disabilities who rely on daily home health services in order to avoid institutionalization are suddenly being cut off of Medicaid without proper notice, and even though they are still eligible. These are people like Michael, who suffers from Parkinson's and cancer. His family had to spend thousands of dollars out of pocket to take care of him while his Medicaid was reinstated. And while each story is unique, there are common themes, including frustratingly long hold times and transfers and drop calls. Another common theme is that Floridians are sent notices that are utterly confusing and internally inconsistent. As one mom relayed, the notices go back and forth between saying someone is eligible and then ineligible, or Medicaid will end because you are getting the same Medicaid under another program. Some of Florida's termination notices violate basic due process, and 2 Florida mothers whose children lost coverage shared their stories with a federal court judge in a class action lawsuit. So stay tuned for the next video when their lawyers from the National Health Law Program and Florida Health Justice Project explain why this lawsuit is so important.